Here we are. Hello, hello, good people. Yes, happy Wednesday, disgusting. And hello, Nano. Oh, yes. Oh, well, awesome. I'm glad, Penmaster, that you're excited. I am interested in talking about this book as well. Oh, boy. All right, I guess we can just get into it. Another rainy-ass day over here. Oh, I wish it was raining. That wouldn't be as hot in this room right now. But hey, Susan. All right, well, I guess we can just start going. Looks like we got some people in chat. Everyone's talking. All right, so hello, good people of the internet. For posterity, I guess I'll just do some brief introductions. I am James Cheek. I am the voice of Hua Cheng, in the FUNImation, now Crunchyroll's English dub of the Heaven Officials Blessing anime, or donghua. And I read volume 3 of the Heaven Officials Blessing book series. This will be sort of my thoughts and critiques on the book. It'll just be whatever. It's not going to have any sort of rhyme or reason to it. I'll be jumping around, answering questions, and just sort of my general thoughts on the book itself. And so with that, let's just get into it. So first and foremost, I guess I'll just kind of give my general vibes around the book. Volume 2, I said that it felt like it was sort of like one step forward, two steps back kind of a thing, where there was some interesting stuff happening early on, and then like the last 2/3 of the book, it was just, a lot of standing around and talking, and there was a multi-page like expositional beatdown with Hua Cheng kicking the shit out of Kirong. Um, and then the first half of the flashback, like, it was not a lot of interesting stuff happens. It's mostly just set up for, it's mostly just like the prologue, again, just more expanded upon. Volume 3 kind of feels like the reverse, where two steps forward, one steps back, where it was the first 2/3 of the book, I think, had a lot of really interesting stuff going on. Even the like the last half of the flashback, I think it was like half of the book almost, and that had some serious shit went down in that, but but then coming out of that and getting back into the present, and just sort of like seeing how Xielian handles like Kirong possessing this random guy, and like that weirdness that's going on there, and then the festival or the banquet that he ends up going to with the other gods, and the thousand light ceremony, which was really cute. Like, a lot of that stuff was interesting, and then but then, like, after he and Xielian meet up again when Hua Cheng comes up, or he and Hua Cheng meet again when he shows up to save him from, or to help him out with the fetus ghost or fetus spirit. Like, that was like that, like, after that point, like, just the pace just kind of died, and it just sort of became that kind of meandering, like, stuff's happening but we don't really know why. It all just sort of, it's just sort of like one vignette of things after another, and it wasn't super interesting, and then it ends in kind of a sort of like a anticlimactic cliffhanger, where it's just sort of like the beginning of a horror film, where they get locked in a haunted house, or wherever it is that the bad luck spirit had sent the four of them off to sort of deal with the shenanigans in Volume 4, which I will get to eventually. I have it; my copy's right over there. But but it just sort of like the beginning of something else. So yeah, that was it was definitely starting to see the story come together, especially. like the flashback especially, I would say, where seeing the sort of first fall from grace for Xielian, where he just kind of, where his sort of at the time sort of like well-intentioned but blind optimism just literally gets hundreds of people killed, was actually really, it was really compelling to read. It was really interesting to read, and it was great to kind of see, because we've only known Xielian up until this point as someone who, like, people keep saying that he was cool and interesting and, like, you know, and that people loved him, but now no one gives a shit, and he just has a bunch of baggage with everybody that he knows. And so, you know, seeing him at his prime, seeing him at the sort of the peak of what he could do, and then watching it just all collapse around him because he made kind of like one ignorant but well-intentioned decision, was really powerful to see. Also, the dead babies, like, this book had 3 dead babies in it. Was not expecting that at all. And that every time a dead baby showed up, like, that was just sort of I was like, oh fuck, this book all of a sudden's gone hardcore. But yeah, so the flashback was really interesting. You know, just actually also seeing right, so many dead children. You know, but then also just like finally seeing moments where Xielian actually gets to fight, because he is a martial god and he has not fought at all this entire time. You know, like, I think the most that we ever saw him do was in the prologue. There was a brief moment where he had a clash with the bridge demon, or the bridge ghost, and that was it. Like, we have not seen him pick up a weapon and do anything. And so, you know, to read segments of him just like kicking the shit out of invaders, and also the fact that, like, well, I find this a little hard to, I understand it's in the story, but it just sort of felt a little weird that, like, he had not killed any weapon to that point. And for him to like, this was the first time that he had, like, been pushed so far as to have to kill people. I thought it was thematically, I think it was really strong, but it was also just kind of weird, where I was like, this guy, like, is a literal god level martial artist and he hasn't killed anyone yet. That was a little sort of disconnect there, but it was, but yeah, just seeing him, and just seeing him, also seeing him in a position where he trusts in himself, and he feels like he can actually, like, do things, you know, was also really cool, because, you know, as we see him, he's just already defeated and is just sort of immediately willing to concede any and all points. You know, in any sort of conflict that he has. But here, you know, we get to see him stand up for himself, to challenge the stuff with his parents was really interesting too, and just sort of learning that, like, his dad wasn't the smartest guy in the world, and his mom was just sort of like a well-meaning, like, strong woman behind the man kind of a person, and just sort of not just sort of seeing how complicated the world really is, and this notion of, you know, I want to save the common people, like, is not a it's not like a unique position. It's like something that, like, a lot of people have, but it's not a priority, you know, it's not as like a high priority as he was making it for them, because of just the realities of dealing with corruption and people and complicated problems. And so just kind of like getting a new perspective on this sort of core idea of Xielian, and how he interacts with the world. Let's see. I think it was because he was so young and literally loyalty that he never had seen real combat, just sparring type or training or killing ghosts and stuff, but not humans. That's fair. Green Day. I hadn't really considered that, but yeah, that's right. He was in his late teens, and he was a prince, so, like, he would have been kept from kept from seeing like any sort of real combat, or any combat where he would have to, where like death would have been on the table, as it were. So yeah, so that was really interesting to see. The fucking giant kaiju moment threw me for a loop, where he animated his giant statue to hold up part of the city as it was crumbling, the library or whatever it was. Like I truly, like like the 12-year-old kid in me was like, oh my god, giant robot. But like the 33-year-old man was just like, this is really fucking absurd right now. It was a very big mix of emotions in that moment, because it was super intense, but it was also just like so absurd. It was very very Pacific Rim-esque moment. And and him just having to like hold off people and keep this all together. Like, just he's spread like so thin in that moment. It was crazy. Yeah, no, it was well, like, it was weird too, because I had forgotten about that statue, and I had forgotten how big that statue was. And so like in my head, it was sort of like the statue of Jesus Christ in Brazil, the massive, arms out Jesus, and like all of a sudden just that comes to life and like comes down and like defends the city from something. And so it was just like, this is awesome. This is also really fucking out of nowhere. It is a moment I'm excited to see animated. There's actually, in this book, there's a lot of moments that I'm really excited to see get translated, or how they'll get translated in the story, because that is just such a massively bombastic moment, and like shit's going down from all angles, and it's just anarchy, and then all of a sudden a giant fucking statue of Shelian just comes in and starts trying to put the city back together. Definitely look forward to that moment. Learning about the multi-face disease was fucked up. That's a fucked up disease. Um, and like I initially, because I remember reading the wiki when we were working on season 1, and I remember reading the segment about the multi-face disease, and that it was like a sore or something that just looked like a face. And so I thought it was just sort of like a colloquial term for just like a really gnarly, like pox or something like that. No, these are mouths that are like by existing on the body, are consuming segments of the body, and then uh they're hollowing out portions inside the areas that they've taken over, and just like consuming shit. Like, it's just fucking nasty and gross, and was just like, I think oh god, there's that like fear of holes, or like fear of holes on a person or something like that. I think I have I forget the name of that specific phobia. But I think I have like a mild bit of that, because like the notion of like holes in your face or body or something, and then like knowing that there's like this sort of cavernous section in of your body, is super fucked, and it just really threw me for a fucking loop. It was just really gross. Seeing it illustrated made it feel somewhat worse. I did imagine it more brutal, but it really, yeah, no, it's fucking gnarly. Wait, hold on. I had my copy right here. It was illustrated? I don't remember it being illustrated. Let me see if I can find a picture. There's that. No, I don't see it illustrated. Did I miss something? Yeah, because this is all, I don't know. For the first guy who ran in the streets. Huh. I guess I must have missed it somewhere. Oh, well, I'm not going to dig through. I'm not going to hunt for it. I'll trust you guys. Look for it. Yes, the cave scene is in this volume. And the cave scene was weird. Page 164. Okay, thank you. Page 164. 62, 63. Oh, shit, yeah. With his fucking just face on his face. Ugh. I do remember that, yeah. Oh, wait, there's multiple cave scenes? There's not just the... There's not the... Okay, so you are talking about the horny cave scene. Yeah. Yes, the horny cave scene is in this volume. That was weird. That just kept getting weird. 'Cause like the sort of trope of like the seductress, like incubus, succubus demon um thing was like it's just like I seen it around from in things, but it was so weirdly placed, and like Xielian was so intense about it because he said stuff about like he would lose control over himself, but he had protected, but like he was concerned about like killing Hua Cheng in the moment, right? Like just sort of going into a frenzy and just like doing unspeakable things to Hua Cheng, who he seemed to be wholly unaffected by everything, which was interesting. And then it just kept getting worse because Xielian kept trying to like, like do the, oh, that's right. He'd lose his cultivation. Yes. That's right. But yeah, so he would, so that would, so he'd do that. And then he just like kept stabbing himself and like cutting himself, but that was making it worse because the sword had cut the plant monsters. It was just bizarre. And like, I think I wrote down a quote during that moment because it was just really fucking. No, I wrote down a different quote from an earlier moment. But just that whole scene was just super fucking weird. Yeah, like that was just a bizarre. I didn't fully get that moment, like what it was doing or what it was leaning towards. Yes, Hua Cheng was just sort of off in a corner, just being just very uncomfortable, not knowing what to do. Little teenage boy. Hua Cheng in the flashback is also kind of interesting too because we get to see him at different stages of his life, where where he's a little kid and then he's a little bit older, and just sort of appearing around Xielian. And something that hello Linaz. Something that I noticed or about this book that I thought was really interesting and I kind of appreciated is that like all the like the romantic romantic tropey moments that happen between characters, like coming from Hua Cheng's perspective, are completely ignored by the narrative. Like when he's a little kid and Xielian like makes the point of tells him the whole "live for me" moment is treated as like the sort of embarrassing aside that's not, and it's just sort of done. It's not really, and it's like a reaction to something that of just trying to make someone feel better. There wasn't any real intention behind it, or or interacting with Hua Cheng as a teenager, and like the cave scene, and then talking, like having a brief discussion about like martial arts, and he's like, you should use a scimitar, and then and then like him wanting to like find him, not because there's any connection between these two people, but just because Xielian's a martial arts nerd and he just wants to make sure that this kid with potential like lives up to his potential. I thought that was really funny, but it was also kind of like nice too. Yeah, and it was it was nice in the sense that like all of this gets paid off later down the line as these two are adults. And it just kind of, and it was just this really, it was this nice sort of moment of like, this is not a this is not like a star-crossed faded romance almost. This is sort of like one person falls in love with another person, and then, years down the line, they meet up again. Oh god, this happens occasionally. I've read a couple of stories where it's like two people meet when they're like kids, and then and then they just then they go their separate ways, and they meet up again, and like one of them is like has been holding a candle for the other person since that time, and then they finally get together. And so it's just like written from like the love interest, it's written from the woman's perspective, because it's usually the guy who is still holding it, is still like hung up on someone. And so it was just interesting to kind of see it from that way, and just sort of see the massive distance between these two people, until you finally get to know each other for real as equal. Yes, it's very true. Well, it's also like it's also something that's like too, because that I liked in too, because like Hua Cheng, as as a child or as a teenager, like his actions are put in that context. They're not elevated to like full romantic gestures or things that were supposed to be like, oh, this is the moment where they fell in love or something like that. It's like, no, he's a kid who is like, who has a lot of emotions to this person, but he's just kind of acting like a kid, or he's acting like a teenager, and his actions are just sort of like, oh wow, that was a weird thing for a kid to do. They're not given any weight, any like significant romantic or emotional weight, which is appropriate because that's what they were at the time. And so, his like effective romantic interactions with him don't happen until he's an adult, which is how it really should be. Been in love with him for a long time, but he actually gets to know him as a person more closely many, many centuries later. Yes. He knows. That was something, and that was sort of a thing that I really appreciated about the development of the relationship. Because I mean, even me, I think I would be, if I was writing a romance about characters that spanned centuries, I think I would be tempted to write, if there were moments where they had like run into each other before like the relationship started. I would be tempted to kind of like make these moments super important, and like, give allusions to maybe they had been in love with each other for this whole time, and they finally now get to act on it, or some other thing, sort of make it this like cosmic, this sort of cosmic meant to be sort of story. And what we're getting here is no. What we're getting here is a one-sided, like almost parasocial relationship that that doesn't amount to anything, because Shellian is off doing his own stuff and he's got his own drama to deal with. And it's only when these two people are in a position to actually, learn about each other and develop something deeper, that actually starts happening. I think he does clearly have a crush on him even before he died, but there's a big gap between puppy love and deeper love that comes with understanding of the person. Yes. No, he definitely, and that's, I think, kind of how it's treated in the books, where he's just like, I think he doesn't know. I think Hua Cheng's sort of at a point where like he doesn't know if he wants to like be Shellian, protect Shellian, or fuck Shellian. He's kind of in that sort of stage of Twitter pated, where he just knows that he really likes this guy, and so and he just kind of wants to be around him. So that's, but we get to sort of see it, and it's in an appropriate context of him being a child, and I really like that. Let's see. See, I'll talk about that one later. Talking about the romantic beats. So many dead babies. Oh yeah, there was a quote on page. Hang on, let me look at the quote real quick, because I wrote it down, so I was like, oh, this is a cool quote. Best part of TGF for me was Hualian's development. It's about to get even better when you continue. Yes, no, I am excited for where it's going to go. Let's see. Where does he say? Is that or 94? Where did I? Hold on. Looking for the quote. Yeah, okay, so it's page 93. Oh, yeah. It's, see, whether I should be sealed under a mountain for 100 years or 1,000 years or 1,000 years, I will not regret it. Yeah, just like him standing up to Junwoo. That moment I thought was just absolutely badass. And also just like a version of the character or an expression of the character that we do not get to see again, really. Or maybe later on in the story, but certainly not in the last 2 volumes or even in the present day of the 3rd volume. Of just this, just this person who is so who is so true to their convictions that they would, when they see something is wrong, they would, burn the world down in order to correct, the mistake that they see. And that was really fucking cool. It was also interesting to see how he was like, he was like sort of mildly defying, just this sort of massive, the status quo of things, but still kind of like working within the system where people were just like, all right, you can go do this, but the consequences of what you're going to do. Seeing them fall deeper in love with you, getting more comfortable expressing themselves was so satisfying. Yeah, we get to see that a little bit in this volume. I think there was a moment where brave but foolish. Yes. Right? Yeah. That's kind of well, that also that oh yeah, that's right. That has a whole different meaning too, because it's like, because he was there and he was on the losing side of that fight. So like, so Xielian got him killed. I think I'm pretty sure that Hua Cheng dies in the war, right? Like that's what it was. Or that's how he died, unless it's a spoiler to learn exactly how he died. But I'm pretty sure that's how he ended up going out. And so just like, even though Xielian, through his decisions, had caused him personally. Yeah, but we don't see it. Okay, yeah, I remembered something about him dying in that conflict. But like, Xielian was the one who kind of like made everything worse by showing up, and he still, was still convinced of him being a good person. But then just sort of even admitting that that's still an admirable idea, knowing the consequences of what it did to him and to other people is super significant. I think knowing that now, I'm curious as to how I would have performed that moment in the show. Because I don't remember my thought process for that line. I remember recording that, and I wanted to go for something like sweet and vulnerable, but I don't remember exactly what I was like thinking that he was like thinking. The battlefield is implied. Okay. You don't blame him. He did his best. Well, it's one of those. It's one of those things where like, what Xielian wanted to do was the right thing, but the system that is in place did not allow for the right thing to happen. It's sort of like how our legal system isn't always set up to make sure justice happens. Sometimes it's it's to make sure that the status quo continues. And so so it's one of those things where like no one was willing to try and do something outside of the status quo in order for the right thing to happen, and so he was just sort of allowed to sort of like fall victim to the system that's there. There's also a lot more to Xielian's impact on Hua Cheng. Um, oh yeah, no, I'm definitely definitely excited to get into volumes 4 and 5. I don't think I'm gonna get into volume 4 for a while. I've got some other books that sort of piled up in my reading list before I can move on to the next volume. But yeah, no, definitely seeing the kind of the beginnings of their relationship, and sort of seeing, especially from Hua Cheng's perspective, of just sort of of him, um uh him kind of like, seeing this person that he admired in like the lowest form, the lowest point in his life, and watching everything sort of fall around him, and him still choosing to keep him in high regard is really cool, and it was really interesting. um and then let's see, there's his mom. Oh yeah, that was another thing, was like White No Face I don't fully understand yet, because he was because when he did because when he confronted him in the false body, it had the same face. Oh, this well, a low point, I should say, his lowest point up until that point in his life. Um but White No Face, um like, because when they fought, he had Xielian's face, which I thought that was him like fucking with Xielian. We got to see Bai Wuxing on the page for the first time. Yes. Oh, is that his name? White No Face, the calamity, the like tragedy comedy mask put onto one thing for reasons. Um. But when they fought, he had his face. I thought that was just him fucking with Xie Lian for whatever reason. Um, okay, cool. Uh, and because he seemed to be something that existed prior to Hua Cheng. Thank you. Um, but I have seen like just art floating around Twitter that implies that there's an actual more direct connection between these two characters. Um, uh, the Donghua uses BWX while the book translates it. Oh, okay. Um, Bai Wuxiang. Wait, did they say Bai Wuxiang, or did they say White No Face in the show? I don't remember, because that's like episode like 2 or something, and I'm not in that episode, so I don't care. Uh, that was I think that was like early on, when like everyone was still just like trying very hard to wrap the head around Chinese pronunciations. Um, oh, they did say it on the show. Okay, cool. um, but yeah, so there is episodes 3 or 4. Yeah, I remember. But there is like a more direct connection between those two. Uh, let's see. What you said is so true. I don't know if you remember Xiaolian's convo with the state preceptor. It's one of my faves, about defying God's rules. Thinks all those who believe in prayer are stupid. Xiaolian says no, but we should use them as guides on his ultimate rule. Yeah, he says stuff like that. He sort of starts that, or he presents that idea at the end of volume 2, where he has a conversation with the state preceptor, which I don't think they ever say his name, or if they do, I don't remember it, because he's usually referred to as the preceptor. But he talks about sort of like the nature of gods, and like, do we really need, should we really be praying to these people? And then in the beginning of volume 3, they sort of touch on that idea again, with the creation of his temples, and him wanting to not have altars, and not have like prayer sections, and to inspire people to not see him as like, an ultimate authority, but rather as sort of facilitator for their own agency, or something like that. And and so I thought that was really interesting. And then of course Hua Cheng is the only person that, as far as he can tell, is the only person who oh, he does have a name. Okay, cool. Yeah, because Hoppy abbreviated it, but I don't know his full name. um I do not know what a gyoshi is, because it's Xianlian's gyoshi. I do not know what that is, other than maybe like a teacher or something. um I think they tell his name later. Maybe, I don't know. It's like Mei Nan Kia, Mei Nan Chang, or something like that. Maybe. Yeah. I don't. I mean, Yang King. Okay. Mei Yang Qing. Oh, teacher. Cool. 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 Um. Okay. Cool. Thank you. I guess he comes back. Yeah. That seems to be a thing with this book in particular. Um. Stay perceptive. Okay, thank you. But that seems to be like a trend with this book, where just like people, who are inconsequential, like to like a book and a half ago, um, uh, like all of a sudden get like a name, and they're all of a sudden involved in some big like some big conspiracy, or just something that like somehow ties into some immediate important thing that they're dealing with. Like the ghost who was, that Xielian had to be like, oh, I'm impotent too, so that she'd stop hitting on him in the streets. Was, like, I knew that she was coming back, because I remember reading in my initial research that she did come back that she did come back in some way. I didn't remember exactly how. But had I not known that, like, that would have been just like really fucking weird. Just all of a sudden, this character who was a throwaway character in a scene, just like a talking NPC basically. Um, yeah, it seems like everything's connected. It's getting to a point where like it's really starting to show that like there is a thread that's connecting everything. Like that, like just everything that's happening seems to be a byproduct, or a consequence of, well, that's the same thing, or either like actually a byproduct or a direct consequence um, or an accidental byproduct, I should say, accidental byproduct or direct result of things that have been happening since Xielian ascended. Which, and for whatever reason, Xielian has no idea that that's what's going on. And so it's super weird, and I'm not quite sure how this is all going to connect. It feels kind of flimsy right now to me, and it may let's see, what device you need to turn down your 4 watt setting on your camera? It's too high. Thank you. Let's see. I do not know. Oh my god. Wow. All right, I'll admit you got me. Yeah, that one got me. Fuck you, but you got me. Let's see. I remembered being so surprised that the singing child from the beginning ended up coming back into the actual plot. I don't remember the singing child. I'll have to remember that again. So I think I understand your mild frustration in this. I think a lot of the fandom didn't experience this and may read it as a one-go binge before the official titles came out. Yeah. Book 3 is the moment where you start to realize it's not exactly the monster of the week story. Yeah, it's very true. See, true. MTX works. Everything is connected and had some deeper meaning. Yes. But yeah, see, there's a lot of loose ends in the earlier chapters, but it will combine later. It's very interesting to see. Yeah, and I think this may have been a little less frustrating, not necessarily frustrating, but just sort of like let's see, who are you? Oh, okay, you are. Hold up. let me do something about this. Thank you, Green Day. Yeah, had a feeling that was gonna happen. Thank you for handling that. Brain just derailed off of what I was trying to talk about. Oh yeah, but everything coming together. I think this may have been a little bit more obvious isn't the word that I want to use, but just sort of like noticeable, I guess. Had the volumes come, I know, right? We haven't been like bogged down with stupid for a while. I guess people care about this channel again. I don't know. But like had they been released in the way that they had been released as the Chinese volumes, as 5 books instead of 8, like the massive tomes, I think it would have been definitely easier to notice that things were paying off, or that things were more connected than other things, or that you should really be paying attention to stuff more. Like if someone starts talking, then they'll pretty much, then they're going to come back in some way. Hold on. Let's see, who asked this question, or who made the statement? Green Day, you said that you were surprised about the kid. Are you talking about the kid in volume 1 who's like, I'm going to make a shrine to you? Or was there a different kid from volume 1 that sang and I just don't remember it at all? Because that's the only kid from the beginning that I remember. But yeah, no, everything's kind of connecting or importance in some way. I'm a big fan of the stopping. Not a big fan. Yeah, no, they're not really. The singing baby to surprise. Oh yeah. You're talking your creepy baby. Yeah. That was a surprise, because I thought that was the. I didn't realize that was just that was a different thing. I thought that was a part of I thought that was a part of the ghost, the bridegroom ghost, and their whole thing. I didn't realize that was supposed to. I knew it was like creepy childlike voice. I didn't realize that was an actual child singing. So for that voice to then come back, and then and then actually have like some significance in some way, and for Shelian to be directly connected with that baby because the mother was a follower of him when she was alive, like that was just sort of like, okay, this is fucking weird. And I think I'm just having to learn that, like, if anything that like fucking weird happens, and then it's like, okay, that's gonna be paid off in some way down the line. Right? Yeah, we get to meet the baby as it tries to impreg Shelian, which that was a whole fucking thing. But yeah, let's see, and they were part of the ambience, the Ghost Bride. Yeah, right. Yeah, I straight up just thought that they were part of like the creepy vibe of the Ghost Bride. Not that it was its own separate thing. But yeah, I mean, that's what it tries to do. He tries to trick a ghost baby into impregnating him. So that was starting to see all these different things come together. Is interesting. It's also sort of curious about Hua Cheng as well, because Hua Cheng has made it clear that he knows what's going on for the most part. And so I'm curious as to why he has not said anything directly to Shelian. Why hasn't he directly engaged with him, or explained things to him or something like that? Because he did that a little bit in volume 2 with Qirong, where he just drags him off and then explains to him, just drags him off to where Kirong is, and then beats shit, and then Kirong explains everything, and then then he explains it like, well, it was like I kind of knew what was going on, but I didn't have the full story, and then when this happened, that's when it cleared everything up for me, and so that's why I just brought you along to. If I had a nickel for every time Xie Lian dressed up as a woman, well, as of right now, you'd have 2 nickels. And while that's not a lot, it is weird that it happened twice. God, I love that quote from Phineas and Ferb. That's just a really funny moment in Phineas and Ferb. So that like the things are coming together with the story. The oh God, I absolutely love the whole festival banquet sequence. Just the awkwardness of Xie Lian being around all these different mucky mucks that he doesn't feel, that he's not really connected to in any meaningful way. The Mid-Autumn Festival, yeah. Oh no, he does it again. Oh dear God. But it was like, for the Mid-Autumn Festival where it was, the gods were, it was like the gods were bored. It was very Thor Ragnarok. The Asgard players, where it was just this really, it's just a bunch of bored, rich, immortal people, just kind of like fucking around and just doing whatever with only like 1 or 2 people really caring about anything. And then the different plays that were being done were funny. I think I've mentioned this before in a Discord stream before, but for the play that happens for Xie Lian, I'm really hoping when they animate it, I'm really hoping that the players for those that they give those characters lines in the show. And what I really, really want is for J. Michael Tatum to play the actor playing Hua Cheng, and Brandon McInnes play the actor who's playing Xie Lian. I think that would be really cute, for one. I also think it'd be really goddamn funny. It's just sort of like this to me at the very least, because for those in chat who aren't aware, which I think most of you are, but before I got cast in the show, I was and still am working at a production company here in Texas called Extra Terrible. A lot of what we work on are Chinese animation and video game projects. And so part of my job there is to, when I can, is to find projects for us to work on. And so like I'd found us some like short films that we worked on for Studio Tumble and Flint Sugar, those animation studios. And like I had a handful of other things that I had found for the studio, in addition to like, the studio bringing in work. And so in trying to find interesting Chinese animated things, because that was most of what we worked on, I came across the trailer for Heaven Official's Blessing. And I was like, oh shit, this looks really, really cool. Having no idea what it is, no idea that it's a book series, nothing. I talk about this in my interview with Kichter. And so I talked to, the guy who Jason Lord, the guy who runs Extra Terrible, and we talked to our Chinese localization partners to see if maybe this can happen. And so like I had started figuring out, because I wanted to direct it, and I was also going to adapt it because I work as the head writer. And so I was trying to figure out who I'd want to cast for the lead characters, and for some reason I knew it was a romance or something like that, or a queer romance. I think I may have done like a slight bit of research or something, and so like found out that it was a queer romance show. And so I was like, ooh, who'd be perfect for these? J. Michael Tatum as Hua Cheng and Brandon McInnes as Xie Lian. They're a couple in real life. I think their voices kind of are interesting against each other. I had cast them opposite each other before in a proof of concept project that didn't go anywhere. Um, and I just like the kind of dynamic that these two people can have, and they're the right vocal print for the characters and stuff. And so, um, and so I was, so like when I got the sides for everything, I was convinced I wasn't going to get it. But like to have this kind of moment where like that little payoff happens, this little very specific, hyper specific meta joke, I would absolutely adore that. Oh God, my allergies or something. But I'm really excited to see that part get adapted into the show. I'm excited to see the lanterns because that's just going to be a gorgeous moment. I'm excited to see the last half of the flashback get animated and all that just insane violence and fucked upness. I will say something that really disappointed me with this book, with this volume though, was that Hua Cheng really just showed up to put all the gods in their place. Well, like I think it was a mix of things too, because when he's talking about it with Xie Lian, where he was just like, "Oh yeah, I thought you'd be bored up there all by yourself, so I figured here, why not? This will be hilarious. You might find this hilarious too." But just like I think it was a mix of I think it was a mix of like, oh yeah, this would annoy. Oh yeah, I think it was a mix of like this would annoy things, but I think it was also just like I don't think he thought too much about it, other than he knew it would piss people off, and that it would be this, because like that was just straight up lies. Oh, okay, so he really was just fucking with the other gods. Oh, that makes sense too. That makes perfect sense for Hua Cheng. Actually, that makes a bit more sense actually, that he's just there to fuck with everyone. He just did that to fuck with everyone. But yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But something that really disappointed me about this book is that their first kiss was non-consensual. Yeah, he was like, well, "This is a perfect way to convince my crush. What a perfect cup." Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But like, I really hated the fact that their first kiss was not like really. It wasn't even really a kiss, but it was just like non-consensual, like grabbing and touching. That I understand circumstantially, like that there was sort of some bullshit that was set up to justify it, because it was beforehand. Xie Lian was talking, because this is when they're fighting when he was fighting the fetus ghost, and he was saying, because he's under the water, and he's like, if I come up and take a breath, it's just gonna like drive down my stomach and fuck with me then, and I won't be prepared to do anything about it. And so Hua Cheng just sort of shows up and like seals his lips with his, and then, and he seems to be dispassionate about it too, because he's focused on fighting the spirit. But then later on, I do appreciate that he apologizes for what he did. No, I understand. Well, like non-con is also like pretty normal for like yaoi and shonen ai stuff too. It just seems to be like a really common trope in BL, and it was something that I really loved about Hua Cheng, was that up until this point, he had not done any of those things to Xie Lian, that he had sort of always respectfully kept his distance, or like if there was any sort of physical contact, it was charged, but it was in a platonic context, like he wasn't doing anything untoward. And this moment has some loose justifications for why it happens, but it was still upsetting to me, that he just kind of like went in there, did this thing, and it doesn't happen again. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, he definitely is better than most, and he also, the fact that he does apologize after the fact. Like I think there's a moment where he apologizes, but then kind of covers it up a little bit, where it's where it just sort of like I don't know exactly, I don't remember exactly how it's handled, but he does apologize for what happened, I think it's presented from Xielian's perspective as like he's just trying to see if he's okay. But how I read it is that Hua Cheng kind of like realized what he did and realized that it wasn't cool, regardless of if he was trying to protect Hua Cheng or not. Oh, no, don't. I don't want to see this. I don't want him to do that shit. I really, really don't want him to do that. Like, it just really upsets me when shit like that happens. And like it is sort of a mark against him in my book, even though he does apologize for it. Hopefully he apologizes for the, you're talking about like non-consensual stuff happening, just period, not Hua Cheng doing it? Or are you talking about something else? Regardless. It's really not that bad. Trying to put that shit on a scale gets really tricky real quick. Intentionally. Oh, I know he never does anything intentional. No, I understand that he, like his whole goal is to make sure that he's okay. But like it was just frustrating for me in that moment. It was the sort of like, why does this have to happen? It was funny. Must be because I was trained. Oh yeah, no, that was funny. That was really funny because it was like it's that kind of moment where you're just like, it's sort of like when like Republicans, like angry Republicans, are trying to dunk on libs, and then they do like an accidental socialism or something like that. I up until now I had not really seen Hua Cheng as like a creep. I'd seen him as someone who like didn't care and was not above like sort of crossing boundaries with people, and that Xielian was someone who was someone that he just on a personal level wouldn't do. See, MXTX plays fast with the concept of consent in general, but Hua Cheng is less than some of her other characters. Yeah, no, I definitely get that. It's just a trope in this kind of story that I really don't like. I really don't appreciate. Hua Cheng, and that was like a real big. That is a big fear. That was a really big fear of mine. Playing this character. And it was kind of I talked about how it was a big relief, at least in the first volume, first and second volumes, that he just didn't behave that way. He's definitely awkward. Phantom of the Opera internally, he's got some Phantom energy. I'll give you that, but he's not as possessive. He's jealous. He's not possessive. MXTX like some weird kinks. Yeah, no. Wait for the extra. Oh, okay. Well, there may get some weird shit happening there. But it was something that I was like really, really excited and happy about, that Hua Cheng didn't behave this way, and then like to see him behave this way is just really disappointing. Even though it's nowhere near some of the worst examples of this kind of behavior, it was just really frustrating to see it. But he does apologize, which I'll give him credit for that, but it was just didn't like it. There's no sus in the extras. Oh, well, that's nice. I love with you on this one is I was also uncomfortable reading the kiss scene, but I don't remember being bothered by their later interactions. Okay, well that's good to know. Well, because even after that moment, like he seems to like go back into that sort of comfortable distance that they have, because they still don't know each other very well yet. It can get kind of wacky, but they don't do anything explicit like usual. Yeah. There's kinks in the extras. Oh, good. Oh, well, here's the thing. Kinks are supposed to be consensual, right? So like even if the kink is like aggressive or violent or or something in something in the realm of like non-consensual interactions, like the God, my nose itches. Yeah. Just constantly itches. Oh God dang it. Oh, it is? Okay, good. But yeah, but then like kinks are supposed to be consensual though. Like kinks are supposed to be like, even if it is non-consent or something, you're supposed to like talk about that with the person you're doing it with. So like, just because it's kinky doesn't mean that it has to be, just because it is sort of a kink something doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't, you know, a conversation on both parties, a thing that both parties agree to. The extras need to worry about yeah, I have in watching The Untamed and the Donghua, people have been mentioned to me how spicy that books can get. Scum Villain System is worse. Oh, well then I probably won't read Scum Villain. But yeah, that was I think that was sort of like the biggest, the kiss scene was like the biggest disappointment that I had. The stuff that followed it was super cute. Like the sort of the date that they went on walking around Ghost City, and them trying to find food for Hua Cheng, was super cute. And then the illustration there was also super cute. So yeah, I wasn't bothered by the kiss scene because I didn't really view it as a kiss scene. I viewed it as Hua Cheng wanted to help Xiaolian in the best way he could in the moment, but it was also afterwards that he realized what he did. That's how it's written, and I think that's a valid take on it, but it's still it's still like non-consensual intimate touching, which doesn't make it okay. Like even if the intent was to help someone else, like that's and again, I keep saying he apologizes for it. He knows what he did and it wasn't cool. So, but I was just upset that he did it anyway because it was something, because Hua Cheng's strong enough to where you could like, he didn't have to do that specifically, like he didn't have to jump in the water, like, kiss him so that the ghost couldn't get into either of them and then burst out of the water and then like fight it off with his butterflies or something. Like he could have done something else. Now is it in his character to immediately like go after Xiaolian and try to protect him and like immediately be in his vicinity? Yeah. But he's still a character who's just broke as shit. And I would imagine that there were more consensual ways of that happening. The other thing is the underwater scene, their later interactions are rooted in deeper meanings, parallels, and revelations. Okay, well that's better. If you don't like non-con, don't read. I won't then. If I don't like, yeah. Let's see. Really, the only thing that made the kiss scene bad was that she makes the point of saying, have Xiaolian resisting. If the rest had played it out the same without getting upset by it, it wouldn't have been as awkward to read. No, I disagree. Because like, because it's one of those things where like, the act itself isn't cool. The act itself is a boundary crossing, whether it's whether it's reciprocated in the moment or not. It or like whether it's whether like Xiaolian like just sort of embraced it rather than fighting back. The fighting back did make it more awkward, I would say. But just like the and I'm not trying to say that the act itself is like a sort of like just like a massive violent violation of something, but it did cross a line, it did cross a boundary, and it wasn't cool. And I think that the way that Hua Cheng reacts to it, I think is appropriate, and that he realizes what he did and he apologizes. And then Xiaolian, because I don't think he ever really considered that to be a romantic moment, it doesn't think of it in that way, other than like him just sort of like, why is this affecting me? Why am I weak in the knees right now? I don't understand. And that little bit kind of ends up being funny towards the end, but just for me specifically, it was just like, yeah, he crossed a line, and I wasn't happy about it. But the date that they go on is really cute. And just like the weird shit that they kept running into, which like of just like just random bodies. Like it was weird. It was really weird of just like how casual it was, because these are straight up like man-eating like horror monsters and stuff. And it's just all played for normal, and Xiaolian doesn't seem to be very bothered by it, just sort of confused. See, because from a life-saving perspective, there's such a thing as implied consent, where you assume that a person wants to be rescued if there's a position to verbalize it, which is where it starts off in a gray area for me, but then it does go overboard and it becomes uncomfortable. Yeah, that's true. But that's I think but and I think again the scene I think is set up to be that kind of a moment, right? Like he's going in, he's saving him, like he's doing everything, he's doing what he's supposed to do or what he thinks he's supposed to do to make sure that Xialian is safe and that they're able to defeat the ghost, the fetus spirit. However, it this isn't real life where it's like one person jumping into a river to try and save someone and then doing CPR and mouth to mouth to try and get him to get him to resuscitate. This is a story about gods and all powerful beings, and it didn't have to go down that way. And so that to me is why it's a disappointment, because there could have been a million other ways where how that happened. And it just ended up happening this way, this particular way. So it's not it's not something that I hold against anyone, like any of the characters or any of the or even MX or even the writer MXTX or anything. It was just something that I was disappointed in seeing. I think Shailene isn't bothered by much at this point. He probably lived 300 years. Oh, I mean, yeah, but him being bothered by it doesn't stop it from being not cool. I think that's why the scene didn't bother me really. It was implied nonverbal consent. However, I understand both sides. So yeah, no, again, like it was something that disappointed me. It's not a huge mark against anyone. I just didn't like it. But yeah, so there was that. There was the date that happened afterwards. Seeing the three tumors together was interesting too. Yeah, the weird food was just like the chicken man and the soup and stuff like that. I was like, what the fuck is this? This is also fucking weird. And then just the Hua Cheng or Xie Lian just sort of like eating a bowl of whatever, and then everyone coming over and just like dumping gross food on them on top of the like rice porridge that he's eating. That was a whole mess of stuff. It was a really funny and cute scene, I will say. Really holding so hard not to talk about their next one. Oh, good. Yeah, don't, please. I'll get to it when I get to it. With the English stuff, but I am looking forward to the next date. But yeah, the three tumors interacting together was interesting. They seem to be a really interesting group of people. I was not expecting. I didn't really think that I was not expecting to see Lingwen having a male form, which I know they talk about that in book 2, but I didn't think that she or he was sort of like went back and forth with it like Windmaster does. I thought that Lingwen kind of only like put on the male form for like specific moments of interactions or something like that, not like just it was sort of a thing that happened, which actually got me thinking about the the actors playing those characters, because right now, because they were all introduced as female, like they've only been cast as female, and we didn't know that when we were recording, that we didn't know that the that those characters, or that the gods could switch their genders at will, because that's not introduced until book 2. And see, the way they show their love is here's some eyeballs. Okay. I will understand that when I read it. But yeah, but with the gender swapping of the characters, like that's not introduced until book 2, and so so when Jerry was casting, he was, he was looking for female actors, and then now all of a sudden these characters are going to have male forms. Yes, gods do swing all ways, and so that sort of raises a question. What I really really hope, is that all the actors who have been cast thus far are women who who can perform a masculine. Oh, hey, Kristen. Wow, we've just been we just been talking about Volume 3. Spent a lot of time around the kiss, and that whole thing. Which I think we've kind of beaten that horse to death at this point. Stuck in traffic. Aha. Yeah, well, I mean, Florida has been destroyed. To what degree depends on who you're listening to. Um, so I understand I can understand how traffic would be a thing right now. Um, oh yeah, but no. It's, as far as like the gender swapping stuff, what I'm really hoping is that the performers who play those characters have a masculine enough voice, or or a voice that they can do that's masculine enough that will allow them to play both versions of the character, and that they don't have to recast a male actor to play that character. Um, Mainly because, one, I think it would be interesting, if the actors could do it. Um, yes, the actor for Windmaster is trans non-binary, but I don't know if their voice print is such that they can do that. Like Kieran Strange has a voice print where he can play feminine presenting characters and he can play male presenting characters. He's done a couple of, like, male shonen protags and stuff. And there's also a couple of trans femme voice actors out there who can play, who still are able to dip into their masculine ranges. But they weren't cast is the thing. Wendy Lee is Lingwen, and she's got a deep voice for a woman, but I don't know if she can play a guy as effective, believably. Or believably, to allow the producers to continue, for her to continue playing the male and female version of the character. I would really hope that they can. I would love that, because as I was saying, one, it's interesting, and two, it's easier. Uh, because then we don't have to cast anyone else, and everyone, and they can, they also, the actors who got hired, keep getting more work that way. Um, I do think that Earthmaster may not work, though, because I think the male form of Earthmaster is so, like, um uh is like a much deeper voiced person, like a super, like a more, like, bass baritone voice print for that character, or at least in my imagination it is. And so I don't know if I don't know who was cast as Earthmaster in season 1, because we had no idea who they were. That was a thing, that, like, if I had kind of like, if I had like volume 1, if I had like volume 2 by the time that we had been recording the show, I think I would have liked. I think I would have, like, appreciated a bit more, because there's that scene at the end of, like, episode 10 or 11, when it's where it's like, it's not that big of a moment in the books, but it's when Hua Cheng realizes that Earthmaster that it's Earthmaster along with Windmaster, and that he'd been, working with him and spying on him for the court for a while. um and and that and so, like, he has this moment where he has this, like, this aha, like, I see you and I know you thing. And when we were recording that reaction, like, visually that's what we were saying, but, like, we didn't know if we could do that. We didn't know if that was what we were supposed to do, or if Hua Chung was just being a sassy bitch, because Hua Chung is a sassy bitch. And I think we went with, like, a more knowing thing, but we weren't 100% sure what we were doing there. And so, like, that's where kind of, like, knowing the story would have helped me in the booth. See, an actor can get 85 to 90% of the way, and they can do no, that's true, but it's still, like, what I'm hoping is that the actors can get 80 to 95% of the way to a voice that works for the male version of the character. I do assume that Hua Cheng knows everything. That's why I'm reading the books, so I can also know everything. It's a good question. I know the Mandarin cast is already using different VAs for both forms, but it will be interesting to see what the dub does. Yes. Okay, well then, if the Mandarin cast is then double casting for those characters, the different versions of those is casting differently for the different versions of that character, those characters, then I imagine that that's what we'll do in the dub. But I don't know. We'll get to that bridge when we get to it. I mean, because like this isn't this specific moment where Ling Wen has a male form, isn't happening until book 3, which if the trend continues, that would be the 3rd season of the show, if the show ends up going that long. And then we didn't really spend a whole lot of time with the female forms of Earthmaster and Windmaster. So really, like, Windmaster would be the most important one of just like, can the actor play can the actor play the masculine version of this character and the female version of this character? And so I don't know, that'd be super interesting. But yeah, seeing the interactions with the other court people of the Heavenly Court was interesting, and just kind of getting a sense of like the culture there. The male form, yes, no, that's true. But the only person who, like, I said that because like we didn't spend, like, I think Earthmaster only had like 3 lines in season 1, so it wouldn't be that big of a thing to like if this had been a different show, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal to replace an actor who barely did anything when the character was introduced. And also I wasn't expecting Earthmaster to show up in his female form ever again. I thought that was like sort of a one-time thing. I didn't realize that because she shows up again at the end of this book. So I kind of assumed, I naively assumed that Windmaster was the only one who sort of freely switched genders. And so, so like I kind of assumed that we were going to have, that they were just going to have to pick, that a new actor would have to come in, and then that would be the voice for the foreseeable future. I didn't realize that the gods kept kind of switching as the story went on. Windmaster needs a soft voice. Yes, no, very true. How do you feel about Hua Cheng in this volume, especially Hong Hunger? Because we don't have any Hua Cheng POV in the books. He can be really interesting to think about. True, I was thinking about that when I was reading. Hong Hunger was cute, although I don't think I would love to portray his teenage self, although I don't know if I will, because I don't know if I can, because I can't play him as a child. That's just, I don't have a range to do that young. I mean, I could try something, but I don't know if that would work or not, and so I don't know if I'll be playing him as a itty bitty baby. When he's a young teen, I can probably get into that range a little bit, and so I would, because I think like the youngest I can get at up this point is like maybe 15 or so, which I think, I don't know, how old is he? If he's like I don't know if he's like 12 when Xielian comes back, because he's like 8 or 9 or maybe 10. When the shrine scene happens. He's 14. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that or not. So it depends on how the Donghua team tries to play it, if they want him to seem more or less mature. True. Well, it's I think it would be sort of indicative of the character to kind of have, at least vocally, to kind of have like a quote unquote more mature voice throughout his whole life, but yeah, like he'd be going through puberty at that point. So I know I can get pretty high, not nearly as high like Derek Snow or something like that, but I can maybe do him at 14. And so he'd be a tall boy. Because I think he's 6'2", which is my height. But yeah, so I was thinking about in terms of like playing him when he was a teenager, which like the most that he does as a teen, at least in this book, is get trapped with his older love interest while his older love interest is dying from horny and not sure what he can, like trying to do something and not being able to do anything. And then like a handful of moments when he where he runs into Xielian again, and he's just like, oh wait, like you actually wanted to talk to me about something, because I'm pretty sure um Mooching or his other attendant, I don't remember his name right now, um like told him to fuck off for reasons. Um and so we don't know what those reasons are, but I'm like, yeah, one of his attendants told him to go eat shit, and so he kind of went away. He's described as taller than Xielian in every instance. Interestingly, at least teenager Sanlang Hua Cheng forms. It's true. Fengxin, thank you. I would say that this. I would say this is not the of his teens. Mooching did. Okay, yeah. But yeah, so like there's there's that, and then there's the and then there's the like I'll always believe in you moment. So he's it's interesting because I know who he ends up turning into, but here he's just sort of like he's a largely aimless person, like his mother abandoned him or died or something, and like we have no idea who his father is. And and so he's just been kind of, and he's been abused throughout his whole life. And so he's become like a misanthrope very early on, and he just latched super hard onto the one person who gave him any kind of kindness. And so like playing the teenager version of that, I think he'd just be super confused the whole time. Like just we will see his teens again, so it'd be cool. I mean, I would love to play him as a teen. I would love to play as many versions of Hua Cheng as I possibly can, because I know he's also, comes back as a masked person, for something. I know he has a third form that we haven't seen yet. Let's see. It's super interesting because when you read it first, you had no idea who he ends up as. They're just those are just words by a kid, right? Yeah, like he's just a teenager at this point. Like we don't really know. Like the only thing that I really know is that like everything he does is super sincere. Because I think that's kind of where a lot of the pain comes in, is that I think he's just like a really sincere person, but he just had to deal with a bunch of shitty people his whole life, so he's kind of learned how to navigate, like, and his response to that is just to be like really just kind of be a dick. it's just to become so strong and so capable that no one can fuck with him when he's being sincere. The first time I read it, I hoped the book would explain his convictions, and it does. Oh, nice, yeah. We said that he when he ran off, he's like, I'll never forget you. Yeah. That was very reminiscent of like a 90s like coming of age film, where like, sort of like Free Willy, when the creature or the friend goes off into the sunset because it's their time to go, and then it's like, I'll never forget you. That was really sad. It was also made even more sad because it was like Fengxin, Mooching, and Xielian were mostly like embarrassed by what he said, where like they heard it and they were like, oh, cringe. And he's just being like just so sincere in that moment. He believes, like it's really interesting, in that like he's still in the mortal realm, so he still has this, like, even though he's kind of frustrated with it, he has this really he still has this romanticized sort of like religious view of the heavens and all the stuff that's happening, and so to him it's all super serious. But to three of those guys, they've been living in it for like a year, and they kind of know that it's just another bureaucracy, and so so that's not that big of a deal for them. And just sort of seeing, I really like that it's so strongly and these are the kind of the moments where I'm really happy that the books are so strongly in Xielian in that moment, Xielian's perspective in that moment. You still bawl when you watch Free Willy? Oh, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. It's been over 20 years. I think it's a little harder now because of like the Black Fish documentary and how like all the horrible shit that happened. I think on the set of that movie too. So he turns around the point. So he turns around to the point where Shalian said, "Those who save him those who save him at the moment, but inconsequential kindness is what mattered." Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is just sort of seeing, which is a theme of like this story, as well as like Modao as well. It's just sort of like we don't understand the significance of our own decisions or actions until much later, if then. Um, and for Xielian, he's just kind of been doing his whole thing, his thing for 800 years. And he doesn't think much to the point where he doesn't think anything that he does has any significance. And then this whole story is about showing how, that simple belief of wanting to protect people and to enrich the lives of everyone, not just the affluent, it actually is both dangerous and empowering, depending on who's on the receiving end of it. The little boy from the desert kind of reminded me of that. The kid going, "I'll build you the biggest shrine," and then being, "Yeah, sure, yeah." No, that was also kind of a like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." And then that's he kind of comes back a little bit in this one, where he where they think that the play must have been written by him or someone in that caravan. Why are you doing? Why are you not focusing on me? My camera sucks. I don't know why why are you so stupid? I'm so out of focus. I'll just, There you fucking job. Hua Cheng commissioned it anonymously. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. That also makes sense. Oh my god. Oh, that's so funny. That's not that's just headcanon. Oh, okay. Well, even then, that's still really fucking funny. Yeah, I don't. This me being suddenly fuzzy. I don't know. My camera just decided to like focus on a different thing that wasn't my face. Okay, let's see what else I have. I have notes for things. Let's see, we got that. Oh God, yeah. The one of the last things I want to talk about is when Windmaster shows up, and he's telling the story of how he had come to have to deal with the bad luck creature. I don't remember what it's called. Excuse me. But that he has to like set the mood for telling the story, where he has to like light a can, like he was summoning a whirlwind and it was just being disruptive, so he just like lights a candle and is like, "This needs to be spooky, I'm gonna tell a spooky story." That was just very, very, God, that was just so gay. But it was also just very extra, and I thought it was really, really funny. That just he didn't understand how weird he was being in that moment. Yeah, he's just so dramatic, and it was just so so obvious to him that yes, theater kid. Oh, very much a theater kid. Windmaster is quickly becoming a favorite character of mine. Yeah, no, he is a goober. Windmaster's just a little goober. And I just love how, like even in a moment where he's just like terrified, he's like, "Hold on, the ambiance has to be right." The entire arc should have been left to a single volume. Yeah, it was super weird. Like it wasn't a strong ending for sure. I think a better ending, honestly, would have been, I think a more solid ending would have been, like ending the moment where they just return after after dropping off the woman in the heavenly court, and then just coming back to Peking Shrine. But it doesn't, like, there's no God, what am I trying to say? But even then, it would just be like that ending would just be like super abrupt. It wouldn't necessarily feel like there was kind of a pause in the action, or like an idea that you could kind of like leave, like a note that you could leave on or something. And so how they did it was just sort of, it wasn't super great, but it is what it was. It's also the longest book so far. So like, this arc was crazy good. So this arc is crazy good. So it might have had an impact on the part of the night. Yeah, they may have just wanted to. They may have wanted to just sort of like leave as much of the next arc in the next book as they could. I don't know. I don't know what the decisions is editorially. So you also love when Woodmaster tried to help Shelly and was accused of being a ghost Fetus's dad. Oh yeah. Where he's just like, surely you haven't even touched another human being in an intimate way. And he's just like, I also love the fact that like that would have been true like a month ago, but because him meeting Hua Cheng and all this shit that happened so recently that like none of that's true anymore. And then the dog blood. Okay, I'll look forward to the dog blood. Saved by a virginity sword, which is just so. That was weird. Depending on how some people had reacted to the virginity sword, I thought that the virginity sword would play a bigger role, unless it comes back in some way. He's in the full throngs of the glory hoary days right now. Xialian is, because dear God. But Jinwoo, he's just a weirdo. He does give like oh yeah, I mean it is sort of treated as just sort of like, why the fuck does he have this sword? It's so weird, but no one questions him. I think it was weirdly convenient that it existed. See, the only thing my brother knows about TGF is so Cuckoo and the Virgin Sword are kind of inside jokes now. Oh, that's really funny. Let's see. I don't think the sword comes back. Oh, okay. So it's just this fucking one-off thing? It's just randomly, oh, by the way, I have a virginity sword. It's so stupid. God, and that I think it's gonna be so weird when that is a very special brand of complexes. Yes, I imagine Junwoo is very much like that. But I think that particular moment's going to be super weird if it gets animated, because like the scene itself was just like super serious. It's just sort of this random moment of like, why the fuck does this sword exist? Like who would make a virginity confirming sword? Like why would that be done? And so, like, there's a brief moment where Xielian is just like, yeah, it's another one of his weird swords. But I don't know if they're gonna like, because the first volume didn't have a lot of like kooky weird jokes in it. Sort of like like the handful of times it turned chibi. Like in the 2 episodes that it did. And it seems to be that like like especially that we've seen in like Modao Q or something, where it's like where it seems like that kind of the sort of like the Chinese comedy stuff seems to be super dry too. So like I don't know how it's gonna be portrayed. He had an identity revealing sword and he gave it to Shilian, the one that Hua Cheng broke, but that kind of sword isn't as weird. Yeah, that sword made sense, because it was like a ghost revealing sword or something like that. And he gave it to Nanfang, I think, or Nanfang took it. No, oh, that's right. Yeah, because it was Xielian's sword. He had a ton of them, and then they pawned a bunch of them, and then Nanfang and Fuyao, or Muqing and Fengxin, like sort of started collecting them over the years again. The sword is good at play. Yes, they had to pawn it. Yes, yeah. MXDX is trying to hold back her goofiness a bit for TGC. Yeah, it seems like it creeps in ways where it just seems a little awkward. I think that we talked about the Discord chat with the TGC definitely gets purposefully sillier than Modao. Oh, okay. While still being mostly serious. Yeah, no, there's definitely just like some random goofy moments where we're just like, oh, okay, cool. there's a virginity revealing sword. So yeah, so that'll be an interesting moment as to see in the show. Um, I will say that like I really wish Hua Cheng was in it more often. He shouldn't be because the story is about Xielian, and he would disrupt the story more. I think if he was there because he just knows too much, and like him being around more often I think would just kind of like make things more complicated or even dull. Like he would, he's just there to he gets there and like solves problems most of the time. But I really wish that he had more screen time. I would love to be in the show more. I also love when Kieran called Windmaster whore, and Windmaster was like, "Can you excuse me for a moment?" And then Beast, yes, no, that was really fun. I think that was a really great moment of just sort of like, "Excuse me," and then just comes back as a like was a woman, comes back as a man. Like that was really fucking funny. Um, Revealing sword, checking. No, god damn it. Ugh. See, after writing Modao, can you imagine wanting to break from all the trauma? Yeah, maybe. Well, she didn't. There's still a ton of trauma in this. We also got calligraphy lessons. We did get calligraphy lessons, and it was super cute because Hua Cheng was just so terrible. Um, Not just knowing he's very smart. True, yeah. Hua Cheng is also super clever. And there's increasingly more screen time as volumes progress. Yes, I imagine as much, but like right now, like I think the mysteries are important to set up. And if Hua Cheng was there, he would just sort of explain everything. He wouldn't. He's not conducive for mystery building because he's just too smart. It's sort of like if Sherlock was, was a part of the events that led to the crimes. Like if he was present or involved with the events that led to the crimes that he eventually had to solve. It was like no, he'd figure out what's going on immediately, and we'd never get a story out of it. And so that's kind of like Hua Cheng's thing right now is that like if he was around more often, at least at this point in the story, I think that he would just sort of like he would fix things too quickly and there wouldn't be a story. I would say he doesn't talk until Shellyan's out. That's very true. He doesn't unless someone does something to him or engages him directly. Like he is kind of a dick. When Windmaster and Earthmaster show up and he's just like, "Why are you in here? I'm playing house with my boyfriend. Go away." And then they all kind of get tagged along together. I do like this time him coming along too because one, I think it makes a bit more sense as to why he would come along with them, but also because I think like Xielian wanting him around, it's very clear that he just wants him around now. That he just enjoys being around him, and I think it's just super cute. Whereas like the first time that they go off on an adventure together, it just seems it seems really arbitrary as to why he would take him along. Even though he says that he's just like, well, he's my friend and I just want him to be here. It seemed a little kind of out of place. It seemed just kind of random that he would be, that he would kind of tag along in the way that he did. But yeah, is there anything else that I want to talk about? Next arc's going to be very interesting. I don't doubt it. Feel comfortable and happy next. Yeah, no, they're definitely friends now, I should say. And I really enjoy the dynamic that they have. There was something I made a note of this, and I am just like definitely curious, and I think I say this almost every time, but like I really want to understand the logic of the swearing in the English translation because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. In volume 1 there was like a character who his tick was that he swore all the time, but like occasionally like an F-bomb gets dropped or something, and it was, or like Kirong will swear or something, but that makes sense for Kirong. But like a character will swear, or it'll be in like the description or something, and it always catches me off guard. Ancient Chinese Tourette, maybe, I don't know. But like I really want to know, like is it like is in the Mandarin, are these moments where like this like a swear word would work here, or is it just like a decision that the that the localizers are doing, or Yes, Fengxing like swearing. Yeah, they curse like sailors. Um, oh yeah. No, but I mean, even in like the first volume, like at the end of the prologue, where like the line is like he, like the crown prince of Xianle, he just fucking ascended again. You know, it was just sort of like, oh, okay, I guess that's just so weird. Have I seen the swear charts? Someone's charted the swears in this story. Like people have tracked when swear words are dropped in this story. That'd be really funny if they did. But to answer your question, no, I have not seen the swear charts. Although I would be curious to see them. I will find out. Oh, okay. Wait, so they're in the book? Oh, okay, interesting. Um, wait, is that a fan thing, or is that like a book thing? The swear charts. Yeah, because I am now I'm curious that it seems like a lot of people in chat seem to know what these are. They made pie charts of how many each time swears. Oh, okay. Someone counted up all the instances of swear words. Oh my god. Fan made charts. Okay. Oh Jesus Christ. Oh man. I think I have to look them up after this. Yeah, put them in the Discord. Well, yeah, they don't swear at all in the show. Which like I kind of wish they did, because Hua Cheng had the least. That's disappointing. Have you noticed how many times it says that Shillian doesn't know when to laugh or cry? Yes, I do. That's such a specific descriptor that actually stood out to me too. Was the where Shillian is just like, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and I'm like, that's two very intense reactions to something. I'm very curious as to like what that is significant to. Is that just like a colloquialism that Mooching he did get to say dick, that's true, but dick isn't that big. Dick isn't really a swear word in more often than not. Oh, it does. Oh, it actually is significant. Okay. Yeah. My pocket vibrated. Cool. All right, I'll get back to him later. Well, I mean, yeah, Hua Cheng just like is very witty, and so he cuts down people with more words than just swear words. Such as, I mean, that's definitely it. You know, that you can get away with more with the language in the book than you can in the show. But because it also, like, I think the show's audience is trying to be broader, and so it's not really there. But then again, I don't know what the raw translation looked like, because sometimes what'll happen in a show is like for the most part, you can't really swear, unless it's in the show in some way. And so like you'll get a line that's translated like actually like the most recent episode that I wrote for Don't Hurt Me, My Healer, which is the show that I was most recently working on for Crunchyroll. There's a moment where the one of the characters, Carla, who always is a healer, but she always performs these very weird, like often abrasive and creepy sort of magical rituals that are supposed to be healing magic, and she's casting a spell that she's just yelling like profanity at the main character. Like she's yelling and then will randomly yell profanity at the character, and so like at one point she screams "son of a bitch" at him, and like that line doesn't show up anywhere. That language doesn't really show up anywhere else in the show, but it was in the translation, so I was able to put it in there. And it not get like flagged or anything. I know the dong was a T rating on US Netflix, so I do think that the swearing is pulled back, and not even a lot even in the Mandarin, and the dub has been less swearing than the dub has even less swearing than the subtitled version. Yeah, probably. There's probably some sort of mandate to clean up the language a bit. So I'm not surprised that it's cleaner, especially because like the show I think reaches, well, ideally the show would reach more people than the book does. Although I'm not 100% sure, because I don't know how many people are actually like readers of the book. I'm not 100% sure how many of them are aware that there's a dub, that that Crunchyroll you know put some English words in those characters' mouths, uh, and it's actually really good. Um, how the Donghua is also much less violent. Yeah, that's true. That was actually something I think I've talked about this before. But that was something that came up in a recording session. I think one of the last sessions, because the first volume came out I think like around when we had done episode 10 or something. And so, or like 9 or 10 or something, like it was we were almost done I think. And so I think for like the last episode they re-recorded, or the second to last episode they recorded, I think it was the last one. um I'd either finished the first book or I had read most of the first book. And so like I had gotten to the scene with when they were in Banyue, and there was the guy who had been had been fertilizer for so long, and like ripped out the dude's brain out of his ear. And then there was also the woman in the first and like the ghost bride like tore out someone's face, like his skull from out of his body and stuff. um and so I was in the booth, I was talking to Jerry, and I was like, oh yeah dude, the books are so much more violent. Like this scene, this is what was going on, and this scene, this is what was going on. And he was like, oh, that makes so much sense now. I had no idea what was happening in the Banyue scene, where because it's such a close up on the guy that you just really don't know what's going on. And so so that was definitely a thing. We would have appreciated having the books available to us, I think. um let's see. Oh yeah, I still find people have no idea the dub exists, and still surprised to find and are still surprised to find out that it's a thing. Yeah, it needs to be promoted more. Yeah, like there are people at I know there are people at Crunchyroll who are big fans of this show. Um, and I think it did really well too. Like I don't know. I know it's not on the level of like the bigger shows at Crunchyroll, you know. But it seems to be a hit, and so I don't know why it doesn't get as much attention or love. It is a little frustrating that there's not a lot of, or at least from an outsider's perspective, I don't know what's going on internally. But it seems to be that like it kind of was like from their perspective, it was just sort of like a flash in the pan kind of thing, but it's not. It's actually pretty successful. I don't know what they're going to do for book 2 or book 4 to escape the gore. They'll do something. They'll do something about it. Just keep in mind volume 3 as you read the end of volume 4 and volume 5. I would say that they constitute as the most important parts of the story. Okay, I'll do that. I'm surprised actually that how many people don't know about the dub. Yeah, no, that's you. I appreciate you spreading the good word. That's right. Yeah, well, that part of the problem I think is because that like most people ended up finding it through Netflix, and that demographic of people doesn't translate to people with Crunchyroll subscriptions or Funimation subscriptions, because it's still not on, it still hasn't migrated over to Crunchyroll yet. And so and also because it's a donghua, and anime fans tend to like assume that that donghua like is of lesser quality in some way, which is stupid, but or that it's like Chinese propaganda or some shit, which is not true. Burping. But yeah, so so like the people, like the most people who ended up finding it, like it's not on the platform where most people found it. So it makes sense as to why most people don't know where the dub is. Most of it, yeah, well received by the fans. Most of us adore. Yeah, that I appreciate that, and also that's really bizarre too. That's what happened. We're just like most people were really happy with the English cast. I mean, Howard is perfect as Shelia, and I'm really happy about him getting cast. There's also just like, well, everyone who ended up getting cast too. Like Emmy Lowe getting cast as Banyue was really great. Um, most everyone who was in the show. Afia as the I can't remember her name, but she dies in like the first three arcs. Uh, like it was it was just cast really really well. Uh, thank you for your oh well yes. Let's see. You think I think if season 2 came out on time, the dub maybe now's a chance to catch up. Maybe Zhao Ying. Yes, thank you. Lucien was perfect for mooching. He really was. I actually, well, both him and Phil Song, I think, were also great casts. Thank you. Cause and it was funny because like I kept before like because I didn't know who Lucien was. I think I'd heard his name before, but I didn't know who he was. And I had no idea who Phil Song was. I don't think Phil has done a whole lot with Crunchyroll outside of Heaven Officials. And so like I kept confusing the two because to me, like Phil Song looks like someone who'd have like a more like tenor range, and I'd never heard Lucien before. So when I finally heard Lucien, I was like, oh wait, he's this character. He's this guy. Phil's this guy. Oh shit. There was like a little bit of a double take for me. It was really funny. We need more panels. We do need more panels. So you donated one of my. So you were the one who donated your prints. Okay, awesome. And it got a lot of attention. Oh, that's awesome. I'm really happy that happened. But yeah, no, we do need. I really would love to be able to meet everyone who's been on the who's been in the show, because I've only met Emmy, and I've only met Howard, and even then I met Emmy in a tangentially, in that we were both taking an online class together, and I think this was before she was cast as Banyue. So like she wasn't in the so she wasn't in the show yet, and now she's gone off and she's super big, cyberpunk awesome lady person. But yeah, so I would love to like just get to meet everyone who's not, who outside of the two people that I have met. All right, well, looks like we're at the 2-hour mark. I think we're going to start wrapping it up unless anyone has any other questions for me. We're cast in Legend of He. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, well, I think that I need to see that movie because that looked like a really good movie, and they did a really good. And I think it was NYV Post, I think, who was like did a really conscious job of casting Chinese Americans in that film, which I really appreciated. I thought that was great. Yeah, so that's a movie that I still need to see. But if anyone has any questions for me. Am I going up to any? No, I don't have any cons in the near future. I have not been in. If you want me at a con, you got to talk to your local convention and just be like, hey, I want James to be at this thing. I need to be invited somewhere before I can attend as a guest. So if you want me there, you got to talk to your the people who are in charge of your local con. And say, hey, we want this person. Any idea of when you'll be doing another signing? I haven't decided yet. I am thinking about doing another one, just because the first one was pretty successful. But but for the next one, I want to try and figure out international shipping, because that was something that a couple of people kind of expressed not like angry, but they were just disappointed that they weren't able to order from me at that point in time. So I think the next time that I open up my store, I will have figured out international shipping, or figured out something about international shipping, and then that's when I'll do it. I was thinking maybe around Christmas, but I'm not sold on that idea yet. Who is my favorite character in this point in the story? Um, well, obviously Hua Cheng. I mean, but that's not an answer. Aside from him, um, I would have to say, um, Windmaster is up there. Like Windmaster, like of the characters, I think Windmaster, aside from Hua Cheng, is my favorite so far. Um, but I also really like Eming. I've talked about liking Eming before, and it was just because he just shouldn't exist. Like he's a fucking, he's like Pascal from Tangled. Like he's just a fucking Disney mascot character. He's just a goofy little. I mean, like in this book where like he and Roya get into like a pissing contest about how useful they are. Yes, baby sword. And like how he like I like Roya too, but Eming has more personality. He's more expressive. He like there's definitely like he has an eye, and there's like definitely something like going on. Like he seems to have like a thought process and stuff. But like my favorite thing about Eming is that like the only reason why he's in the story is because Hua Cheng is min-maxing. Like Hua Cheng doesn't give a shit and is mostly annoyed by Eming, I think. But the fact that he's just like a really, really, really good sword, like he's a really good spirit tool, is why he uses him. It's so like he has vibrates and emotions. Very true. Yeah, I like that they're also I also like the fact that Eming and Roye are like sort of becoming a unit. They're becoming a thing. I also think that I also think it's funny in that scene where like Xie Lian's sword is sort of like the old man who doesn't give a shit. It's so it's just these two little items just kind of like vying for intention or pride or whatever. And Feng Xing, I think is his sword's name. Or Fenxing or something. Is just like off in the corner, just like not doing anything. That was like a cute little moment in those couple of pages. They have personality, they aren't just objects. Yes, no, they're definitely characters. But yeah, so Feng Xin, yeah, Grandpa Sword. Yeah, he's definitely Grandpa Sword. And then there are backstories. Oh, I knew there was a backstory for Roya. I didn't know there was a backstory for Eming. That'll be interesting. I am looking forward to that. They're cute, but they have the most fucked up origins. Oh no. Something to look forward to, I guess. All right. Well, that seems to be about it for uh Fengxing MXT. Oh Jesus. No, stop. Stop doing that. Quit being horny on main, Jesus. All right. Well, that seems to. I'm gonna go wrap it up here. Unless anyone has any last minute questions. If not, then I will call it a stream, and I'll see you guys. I will see you guys for the next book review. If was that when you guys want to come back. I am streaming tomorrow. Me and my brother. For those people who normally aren't here. That's not what I meant. Oh. Oh Jesus. She says so many things that are horny. I just assumed that something she said was horny. But yeah, thanks for coming out. As for the people who are viewing right now that normally don't come by, I do a Let's Play stream with my brother on Thursdays starting at the same time at 5 Central. Where we're currently playing Young Souls right now, the co-op beat 'em up, and it's been a lot of fun. So if you want to come by, then, just come by tomorrow next time. I'll also be, for the people who are subscribed to the channel, I have a Discord where where we've been doing watch parties. We've been going through Modao and the Untamed, the Donghua for Modao and the Untamed. Currently, we're like 2/3 of the way through both shows, so so we're pretty far along. But yeah, and then on Fridays, I do a review of the episodes that we watched during the week of the Untamed and the Donghua on Saturday. Although we're currently taking a break from that because we're transitioning from season 2 to season 3, so that like we kind of finish both shows at the same time. And so right now we're watching the Chibi Modao stuff, and so I'm not, so that's just sort of a fun thing. We're not doing a full stream on talking about those things. But yeah, so if you want to come by, what episodes are we on for the Untamed? We finished 32 this week. We're up to episode 32. So we're up to the point where they are now back in the present. Yeah, Wei Wuxian just died. And so now chronologically we're back to Wei Wuxian waking up in Cloud Recess. No, we watched 31 and 32. So we're currently at episode 33. And the watch parties happen on Monday and Tuesday. But yeah, so all right, well, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for coming out, and yeah, bye.